Hey guys, welcome everyone to the third keynote of AO Ventures. I'm here with Martin, who's a longtime builder and founder in the Arweave and AO ecosystem. And today he's going to present some tools that he built for AO that simplify development for you guys. Um, so if you have any questions, as always, please feel free to ask them in the comments or the Q&A section, and then we'll stay in the chat after to answer them. Yeah, so with that being said, I'm excited to pass the mic to Martin and we can get started.
Thank you. So yeah, hopefully you'll be able to see my screen now. Um, so yeah, as Jesse said, I'm basically going to talk about some toolings for AO that are going to make your life a lot easier um, building on this technology. So just as a quick intro, as Jesse said, I'm Martin. I've been working in this ecosystem for the past 4 years under Community Labs, and our team started development and infrastructure building for AO back in October. Um, we were one of the first users of the platform, even before the release, and so I think we've gathered quite a lot of experience now um, on 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 this ecosystem and the tooling that's required to take the most out of it. So let's talk about 10x AO developers. So I guess have you heard about the 10x developer? 10x developer is a mythical creature who writes an AO process and is already working on the practical or UI implementation, while the rest of us are still trying to talk to Morpheus and Trinity. But even if you haven't heard about the 10x AO developer, I'm sure you've heard about the meme involving the 10x developer. So I'm not going to explain that. I'm just going to talk about your transformation into this 10x AO developer. So again, the 10x developer can be described in many ways, but I think the origin of the term is a meme about that one developer who's always ahead of everyone, and you just can't seem to understand their deal. Um, and I think this was a joke initially, but people are taking it seriously, like the term, and they do believe that these people exist. So to understand why I'm talking about the tooling, I think we need to kind of discuss quickly what the important qualities of a person like this are. So I'd say three things: innovativeness, adaptability, and communication and collaboration. So innovativeness, you need to have a creative mind of your own. In a young ecosystem like Arweave and AO, there are tons of opportunities, and just because you're working on one thing, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep your mind open to these opportunities, and at the very least they might improve on your current project, and at the very best you might even create a brand new project that's going to achieve all success in this ecosystem. So with adaptability, it's very important to adjust to new circumstances, because the technology is always evolving, especially in our view, which is funny because we're all about permanence, but the technology itself is not permanent. It is always evolving, and it's always getting better. I guess there are situations where permanence is not the solution, um, but specifically in evolving this technology. Um, and then the last point I made was, I think, about communication and collaboration. So of course, a 10x developer is also a team player who is able to communicate their status, what they're working on, and also know how to stand up for what they believe is right. So I think all of these qualities and yeah, just qualities are leading to one conclusion. Um, these people know their tools. So this is the reason why I'm trying to talk about the tooling. So you know, I don't think this is a cliche. You could say that saying that a 10x developer only has to know their tooling is a cliche. Obviously, they have to know a lot more. But I think this is the key in actually achieving this status, I guess. The more tools you know, the simpler you can implement your vision. You're also aware of the solutions to certain problems, and you can come up with these solutions very quickly. You ensure better communication and collaboration as developers. They're able to communicate more effectively and share knowledge about the tools they use, and that leads to more smoother execution in terms of the project. So in summary, knowing your tools just means that you hold all the qualities of a 10x developer. um, and RV AO has a broad collection of tools already available for you. And when I started 4 years ago, or when I started working on AO, this wasn't the case. Um, so let me quickly talk about how, I guess, specifically how the AO tooling on my side um, came to be a very important focus of my everyday work. So I started working on Bark a few months ago. Bark, if you don't know, is a decentralized exchange on AO. It's an AMM exchange, and I worked on it. I think at least for 3 months. The initial beta was ready in I think a month or so. So this process of creating Bark basically meant that I was one of the number zero customers of AO. We had no documentation, no tooling, nothing, because the team was still actively working on this technology, and it wasn't released yet to the public. So most of these tools that I'm going to present were created for solving these struggles that I had while working on AO. And we've built them up from scratch to use in our projects later, and also help out the rest of the ecosystem to progress. Um, but yeah, and about Bark, you'll hear more about this project, I think, in a later session. For now, let's just look into the tools. So first of all, RConnect. You could say RConnect is not strictly an AO tooling, but it is definitely an important utility in the RV ecosystem. Actually, RConnect was one of my first very own project in this ecosystem, and it became a huge thing from a weekend project. RConnect now has native support for the AO tokens, thanks to the amazing team working on it, and the API is also compatible with AO messages and processes. So that means that basically um, you can use RConnect to deploy any processes in your Web3 application, or send any messages to these processes. Obviously, we use it in Bark as well. So moving on, an actual AO tool now, my AO Explorer, and also just AO Explorers in general. So in terms of my Explorer, which is AO Marton, AO_Marton dot gateway.io, or it's basically accessible from any Arweave gateway. So on this Explorer, I started working on while preparing Bark, again, before the public AO release. So there wasn't really an Explorer around at that time. So I made this very simple tool that is based on the Arweave gateway it is reached from, and it does direct calls to the AO APIs that AO units use and also AOS use. And again, it is very simple, and it can be used to debug processes. So then, right at the release of AO, the Autonomous Finance also released AO.link, which is a new explorer for AO. They maintain their own cache of messages, as far as I know. I haven't seen the source code yet, but it is what I can say is that it's far more reliable than just relying on mine, which is just using one gateway. Um, and it's a little bit more advanced, and admittedly, it has a much more pleasant UI than mine. But I think these two tools together can be used for the best possible developer experience on AO. So I definitely recommend both of these. Um, then another useful tool, it's called AO tokens. So this is also something I worked on, quite a recent weekend project of mine. Basically, it is very useful for dealing with AO token processes, and it's a must-have. I'd say it's a must-have for all DeFi projects on AO. So to understand why it's necessary and how it works, you need to understand how tokens and token denominations and big integers in AO work. So very quickly, an AO token basically holds all of its balances in a balance table, which uses big integers. This is necessary because, for one, if you're not familiar, most programming languages handle floating point numbers poorly, or at least with not an extremely high precision. So the best way to handle floating point numbers actually is, turns out, is to keep a denomination for these numbers and keep them in separate big integers. So basically, for example, if you have, I don't know, 100 AO cred tokens, that those tokens are in the AO process. It's actually represented as it's actually represented as your 100 AO tokens, and you multiply that by the amount of by 10 to the power of the denomination. And again, if you have a raw balance from the balances table of AOCRED, you need to divide that by 10 to the power of the denomination to get the actual balance you have. This is very similar to how Ethereum tokens or ERC20 tokens actually handle balances. So, this solves the precision issue, but on the front end, it creates a new problem for us. I mean, how are we going to show these quantities? How are we going to format them? How are we going to make calculations on the front end with these? So this AO tokens package makes it a lot easier to handle these quantities. So you don't need to keep track of the denominations, and it also ensures precision for token quantities down to the actual denomination of the token. So obviously, how it does it is actually it uses the native JavaScript number format, big integer format, and so under the hood, it is still the same number that you actually have in the balances table of all token processes, but it allows you to, first of all, do operations on it. So you can add two quantities together. You don't need to care about denomination or denomination differences between those two quantities, because it's going to handle that for you. And it also allows precise conversion from and to strings. So you never actually need to store your quantities or balances in a number variable. You can store it in this quantity instance that this AO tokens library provides, and then you can be sure that the precision of your token will not be lost. It also provides an API that doesn't even require you to handle conversions with denominations. So apart from that, it also provides the most basic dry run operations to read token states and a transfer API. So all of this means that you just don't need to, if you have like 10 different projects, first of all, you don't need to handle everything in big integers. You're not going to handle it in numbers, so it's going to be precise as well. And you also don't need to re-implement all the functions that you're going to use in all of your projects that handle tokens. So like, reading or getting the token's name, transferring to someone, all of this is provided within the library. So in my opinion, this is a very, very useful library for anyone who's looking to get into AO, DeFi, and or just a game that handles tokens. So that with that being said, let's move on to the last item on our list, and this is just a very simple definitions library for AO. So if you're not familiar with this, basically the library provides type definitions for all AO and AOS built-in modules. So for example, if you want to add a handler, as you can see on the screen on the slide, now you'll be able to see all the options that you have for adding handlers or handling handlers basically uh, of your process. Um, uh, this ensures that you can filter issues and errors early on in your process before actually posting anything on Arweave or AO. Um, and it also makes sure that your development is a lot faster, right? Because it doesn't just have syntax highlighting support, but it also has built-in documentation for all functionalities of AO. So, for example, if you want to use the big integer library in AO, now you'll have all the auto completion and everything that comes with that. And if you're not sure about it, if you're not sure about a function, you don't have to go on AOS and the OS source code and maybe look into the big integer module there, or if you want to get even more information, you'll have to go on the site of the original Lua module that was created for big integers, and then you'll have to search through that. No, all you need to do is just call the function, and the documentation is right there. So to me, this helped a lot in organizing all of my AO processes and also contributing to AOS. So yeah, this was the last tool that I wanted to show you. But in summary, all I just want to say is that knowing your tools is the key, especially in this AO ecosystem. The tools that I introduced can make your life a lot easier, and I mean a lot. I mean, it helped me as well, and I think if you're not using your own tools, that definitely means that you have to question how useful they are, and I mean, so far they've been very useful to me, and I've got the feedback that it made everything a lot simpler for everyone else on our team as well. But also, I'm very open to negative feedback or any constructive feedback you have about these tools as well. I'm not the kind of person who glosses over the issues that you have with what I created. So feel free to submit any feedback or questions about this. And so, with that being said, thank you for paying attention to this, and hopefully it will be helpful to you.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that overview. I hope that you guys learned something today about some of the other tools in the ecosystem that will help you. We'll answer some questions now. So I see we've got one in the chat now. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them now, and we'll just go through them all. We'll wait here for about 2 more minutes after. So we got one question right now, Martin. The first question is, I can't find AO definitions in VS Code Marketplace. What is it called exactly?
Yeah, so I forgot to mention that. So AO definitions is actually part of an extension called Sumnaco Lua. So all you need to do is you need to download. If you search Lua in the VS Code extension store, you'll see a Lua extension by someone called Sumnaco. I believe I'm pronouncing their name right. I'm not sure. So you need to search that up. You need to install it, and if you go into the settings of that extension, it has add-on support, so you can search there. I think AO is gonna be the top one there. Yeah, I see you found it. I'll leave a link here because actually there's a tutorial that I made in the AO cookbook for this. Yeah, here we go. I'm just gonna paste it here.
Great, thank you. We'll wait like 30 more seconds. So if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask them. Um, I can also just quickly talk about what's going on next week while we wait. So we're also going to be hosting keynote number 4 and keynote number 5 next week, and that's going to be hosted by Sam Williams, the founder of Arweave, and then also Patrick Skinner, who is a DevRel at Forward Research. You guys might also be familiar with. He's made a lot of content for the ecosystem. Okay, I think that we're good. Um, Amazing. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Martin. We'll see you next week. And as always, we're excited to see what projects you guys are developing and creating on the permanent web as we edge closer to the end of AO Ventures. So we're still kind of in the middle now, but I'm excited to see how everything develops when we come to a close. But thank you, Martin, and we'll see you guys next week.